Oh, this is quite interesting. I'm not sure if I've ever tried recording a YouTube video. Seems pretty easy actually, doesn't it? Let's try the screen. Yeah, you can share the screen in the middle. Choose what to share. Yeah, so you can choose something like that. Oh, now I've got funny because I'm scaring the thing itself. Okay, so we could, for example, go through a timeline. May 1928, Edward's born. And look at the date of birth. The NKIT records show 30th of May 1928. And there's more details there. Go back. Go to more events on the timeline. I'm going to skip quite a lot. Skip some of the early murders. Elizabeth Short, not January 1947. The whole page on her. Confessed to that to Margaret. Let's go on a bit more. It was murders, Jack Parsons for Hoover. So this is the first job for Hoover that I know about. In 1952, obviously when Edwards ought to have been in a federal prison. And later on there's also George Reeves, so I'll come back to that. The timeline. Famous case of Dr. Sam Shepherd, 1954. Creates a courtroom, breaks out of Alexandra jail. Murders Stephanie Bryan, and that was a job. Because he told Margaret about that. He didn't really want to do it because she had empathy. Then he gets caught in Montana after a series of armed robberies. In April 1959, there's a major riot. I suspect at that point he was released because what's quite interesting is he killed George Reeves in between the riot in April and being released in Montana and taken to Portland. So that's a bit interesting. It's an interesting moment in the timeline. Okay, so at this point he's on probation. There's the murders Irene Garza in Texas. Then this Larry Payton and Beverly Allen. So he was arrested and questioned and wanted for questioning and gets on the FBI's 10 most wanted. And there's lots when he goes on to that. There's lots of there's lots of information when he goes on the FBI's most wanted, including like his description over here, and lots of stuff about him, how high IQ, etc. And then when we go, so So nationally, he gets 16 years in Leavenworth, but it's pretty clear he did some sort of deal, because in November 1963, he's murdering Lee Harvey Oswald, framing Jack Ruby for it to cover up the JFK assassination, which I've written about here. He was disguised as Jack Ruby. You can see that's Edwards, that's Ruby. And that solved the puzzle of why Edwards was introduced to Margaret as Red the Jack of Diamonds. He even looks a bit like a playing card, I think. You see. He was also the Wizard of Oz, and that was what he was called. Okay, and there's all these Johnny on Wests, and right, it's got the scar on his right index finger. So yeah, here's the backpack being placed over his head, and there's a huge amount of JFK research. So I also looked at the bullet track, because he was shot in the office. On the sort of stretcher, so he had to be lie on a hard surface, otherwise the bullet would have reacted like that. This is on the JFK autopsy. There's loads of stuff on that, how that was all covered up and forged and stuff. Brain examination, and then this is I think the best one to understand, that it was LBJ and Hoover who put the whole plot together and covered it up, and people in Texas. It's really it was a coup by the vice president. No two ways about it. Okay, so that's that. And else, yeah. So I think that's probably the most. Then he gets into Lewisburg. Parole from federal prison, so he's now out. I don't quite understand why he went from Leavenworth to Lewisburg. But anyway, maybe that's all to do with how he was not really in prison at all. The Robeson family murders, gets married, he's claiming to be a reformed criminal. Then, not long after, the Zodiac killings start, and they're a whole subject on themselves. Okay, Sacramento murders. So early 1971, he's terrorizing Margot Barnes in Sacramento. And I've got this long page on Margaret, and she does the Pines card. Loads of stuff on, especially this, how he explained the Pines card to her. We've got all the cartoon connections, comic books, I should say. We showed her the sleeve IMED, all that stuff. All this business about how Margaret was to be a sort of time capsule, so that when she had hypnotically implanted memories. That's the part of this one she wrote. That's the one where I've made a video. Then he's on to tell the truth. That's not embeddable for some reason. Child murders. That was the first one he's convicted of, 1980. And he left Wisconsin fairly rapidly after that. Must have been questioned. Walsh, Wayne Williams, Wayne Williams is convicted, 1922. Then he's back in prison for arson. He wouldn't have been doing any. There's nothing going on for 4 years here because he was actually in state prison there. Also, the Hoover era has ended, so I don't think he would be getting out of federal prison anymore. I think that was in the Hoover era. Then he writes this letter to the FBI about committing crimes in 19 cities, and he wants this. Quite a bizarre letter because he talks about having all these forged identities, and he wants to get extra social security money. I think it's as well as I understand it. And then he talks about how J. Edgar Hoover gave him permission to write his autobiography to be reviewed with his book after he assured him there was nothing bad about the FBI. And then he wants, something about him being an informant. He's 16 years old and on social security disability. He broke his neck and back. When I was running around the country, I had a few SS numbers and other names. I could get the numbers. I could be getting more money. I think is that a joke or is? I'm not sure if this letter was ever sent, but it was found in his papers. Right, so that was the letter to the FBI. In 1996, he murders Danny Boy. Then we've got JonBenet Ramsey, December the same year. Talked quite a lot about that case. We've got lots of stuff on that case, including this under the radar business. Rob Westmoreland filed a defamation suit against an anonymous web surfer, posted 2 messages on internet forums using the pseudonym Under the Radar, which was something that Ed always talked about. So that was probably Edwards. Really complicated case involving handwriting analysis and DNA, unidentified male DNA. And there's even the actual profile here. Okay. What's this? Oh, this is we just did a transcript of this recently. This is the note sent to journalism professor Michael Tracy, and talks about D-headed and simple. Those things, seemingly simple and inferior, can lead to a confusion that will baffle pure genius. So what he would do, he'd leave sort of hints with spelling mistakes that he's foreign. It's not English isn't his first language and things. He's trying to make people think he might be foreign. Let's go back a bit, again and again. Chandra Levy, Lacey Peterson. He's still going strong. Charles Exon, Ryan Ferguson. He's in the car park. He moves to New Mexico. Oh, from New Mexico. So I don't quite know. Yeah. He frames Stephen Avery. And then this one in this Fort Bragg one. think I skipped the earlier Fort Bragg and Dr. Jeffrey MacDonald. And then this is, I think, is an MK Ultra case, because Bruce Ivins talks about emails he sent in the night which he did not remember sending. So Edwards must have been hypnotising something like after he left work, or while he was at work at night, or whatever, and getting him to send the out letters. And then he gets caught finally, because April turns him in. He does his final spectacular murder of the Coleman family. He gets interviewed in Wisconsin, the DNA is taken, and then he posts his final online message, anonymous online message talking about the Zodiac Network. And then eventually he confesses to various murders to get the death penalty, and dies in prison shortly after he's sentenced to death. And that's really mostly it. The Zodiac Network message is one of the most interesting. The way he talks about North Korea and Asher America as nuclear war, Islamic zombies, doom in Iran. And talks about the Zodiac Network not being fully exposed and ultimately curtailed. I don't quite know what this means, but he talks about the Zodiac Network. Okay, we're gonna end this. I might just show a little bit about some of the groups I'm managing. Richard Grossett. Pin that discussion, that's not an active group. So when I've got that pinned, it'd be much more useful to pin something else. I need to pin that. It's a sort of private group that it's not active. Okay, just see just very quickly, we'll have a look at the see if we can find this group. Yeah, have a quick look at this video. This is what you can see if you come in here. That's Margaret drawing. It's got have you seen it? No. Sure. The sound. And attention. This is really. Let's just have a quick look at. Okay. Okay, let's stop sharing that. And we'll go back to here. Anyway, in the stream, that's quite interesting.